Hey guys, Cole here with trainwithcole.com, and for this week's blog, I wanted to do a video log. Something a little different, kind of cool, right? Last week, the last 2 weeks rather, my article series has been on how to set up an effective diet for fat loss. And so what we're going to do today is talk about how to set up an effective diet for muscle gain. So if you haven't read those other two articles, go check them out. There's some philosophies and things that will carry over to this, what I'll talk about here today. So do that, number one. Number two, I would recommend getting a little notepad and a pen to jot some things down. That's called active listening, the act of taking notes while you're listening to something, so you'll probably retain information a little bit better. You could always rewatch the video, but make it good the first time. So some things to consider when we set up a diet for muscle gain is, number one, it's better to be lean when we start. If you're rather fat, maybe you can't see your abs, maybe you got some love handles going on, maybe consider dieting down for a little bit. Your body, essentially, in short, grows better when we're lean. We respond better to different stimulus and nutrition, so I would recommend being lean. Number two is understand that building muscle takes a long time. We're not in it for the short game here. This is a long game. We want to think in terms of months and years, not just days and weeks. We need to be patient. Thirdly, proper weight training is critical. If you do not take your training seriously, do not expect to build any appreciable amount of muscle. Training is the stimulus that will ultimately trigger the body to grow new tissue, so we need to make sure we're being very, very specific with it. Number four, diet will absolutely make or break your results, just like with fat loss. Again, consistency is critical when it comes to diet, just like with fat loss, so understand that as well. And the fifth point, what I just said, consistency in all of these things will accumulate the goals that we want. It's really important that if we're serious about something, whatever goal it might be in life, that we're consistent in the daily things we need to do to reach that goal. So, just like with the fat loss diet, we need to first set up our total calories we're going to eat, as well as what macronutrients we're going to consume each day. So just like we did in the fat loss article, we need to determine what our current TDEE is. And what is that? Well, if you read the other articles, you'll know that's the total daily energy expenditure that we currently have. At our current lifestyle, exercise we do, calories we eat, body weight, body composition, that's what it is. We need to determine what that is first, so we know how many calories we're currently burning, because when we try to gain weight, we need to obviously eat more than we're consuming. The law of thermodynamics still applies in terms of calories in versus calories out. We want to make sure we're consuming more calories than we burn, so we have the raw materials available in the body to build more muscle tissue. So what I generally tell folks, and understand this, my recommendations in this video are a generality. I don't know your personal, unless you're one of my clients, I don't know your personal story, I don't know your personal body, so I can't necessarily give you specific things. But I want to try to give you some tools so you can try to piece one together a little bit for yourself. You can always email me at trainwithcole117@gmail.com, or find me on Facebook, just Cole Dreyer, or Instagram, or any social media, and we could chat further about some of this. But I want you to know that this is just generality. So, first of all, you'll determine your TDEE, and I would recommend using any kind of calculator online you might find. I like IIFYM.com's calculator. From there, once you determine that, I recommend adding 15 to 20% more calories to that number. That's a fairly decent bump. It's not so much that you're going to start accruing extra body fat when we try to gain muscle tissue, because we want to try to keep that to a minimum. It will happen as time goes on, but if we eat intelligently, we don't way overeat and overfeed ourselves, we can keep fat main to a minimum, and actually maybe even hopefully experience some recomposition effects where we burn some fat yet build some muscle tissue. So once we've determined that, then we need to figure out what our macronutrients are going to be. I would recommend, as a general rule, just put your grams of protein at 1 gram per pound of body weight. I would then recommend that once you determine that, so if you're a 200-pound individual, just put it at 200 grams, then determine what your carbohydrates and fat should be. For generalities, I would say make your fat somewhere between 20 to 25% of your total calories, and then the rest from carbohydrates. I just like to, keep that math fairly simple. So with that being said, I would then go ahead and once you've determined those macronutrients and calories, then we need to talk about how we're going to place those numbers in the meals that we eat. If you're really serious about muscle gain, I would recommend obviously having a breakfast, a lunch, a dinner, some kind of food before you train, some kind of food after you train. Now that's very, very general. If you're very extreme about your goals, we could be much more extreme with that. But what I would do is, just so we are, make sure we're generally being optimal, is at least follow that rough guideline. I would try to have an even breakdown of protein at each meal. I would recommend having the majority of your carbohydrates in the meals before and or after training, because I feel like the body's going to best utilize them the most. And then your fats, I would place them in meals just throughout the day in general. Now, I wouldn't necessarily put a lot of fats with meals that have a lot of carbs in them, because I think that could be a recipe for some added fat tissue, and we don't want that. But doing things like protein and fat together is great, or protein and carbs together is great. I would maybe try to stick to some of that. Again, those are general recommendations. You can dig around for some more research, but for the purpose of this vlog, and so this video isn't 30 or 45 minutes long, we're going to leave it at that. Now, so what to do as time goes on? Well, we want to pay attention to the scale and the mirror and how our exercise is going. I would say if you gain more than 2 to 3 pounds a month, which is going to break down to probably half a pound to a pound a week, maybe 3 or 4 pounds a month, you're probably going to start accruing some more fat tissue than you want. But again, the scale, it can fluctuate so quickly, so I prefer people to use the mirror and their performance in the gym. If you look like you're maintaining the same level of body fat, but the scale's going up, then great. You're hopefully storing some nutrients better in the body, partitioning in muscle. Hopefully you're gaining some muscle mass, especially if you notice that you're even getting a little bit tighter around certain areas of the body. That's generally a good thing. To use gym performance as a good variable of determining how effective your diet is if you're getting stronger week to week, that's great. That normally means you are probably actually growing and building muscle tissue. If suddenly you find that you're not getting stronger anymore, then we should look at some things and to see how can we change some variables to make sure we are continually getting stronger, because we always want to be adding weight to the bar. We don't want to be lifting the same weights a month from now as we are now. Hopefully we're 5 or 10 pounds stronger in those exercises that we consistently do. When to add calories, I would be very slow and judicious in this. If you find that the scale just doesn't budge for a month up, then maybe add 200 or 300 calories to your daily amount. If you find that you're starving all the time, or that you even begin to lose some weight, then I would maybe add 100 or 200 calories. Because the scale goes down doesn't mean that we're not still building muscle tissue, but we still, as time goes on, we want to see the scale climb up a little bit. So these are the couple things I would recommend when building a diet for fat loss. If you have questions, please reach out and email me or find me on Facebook. Thanks. Have a great day.